When it comes to making a quick buck, Electronic Arts are normally front and centre. Their huge size has always allowed them to quickly get games onto a console when required, and history has shown that the quality of their games isn't usually the most important thing to them. So imagine the surprise when EA's basketball sim series NBA Live was so late to the party that it wasn't until NBA 99 that the kart-based console got its first taste on the Nintendo 64. For today's video, let's take a look at the NBA Live series of games on Nintendo 64, which surprisingly only consisted of 2 games compared to the PlayStation's 8 annual versions. The weird thing is, my grandma of all people had this game on her PC, and so whenever my brother and cousins would be over at her house, we would play it. I actually really enjoy the PC version, and I can only assume that she had the game because it was some sort of pack-in with the new PC that she purchased. The NBA Live 99 was released on Nintendo 64 in the winter of 1998, and despite being called NBA Live 99, it was based off the 97 to 98 rosters due to the lockout of 98 to 99. On paper, the game promised some cool features such as live scores whilst you're playing, super high resolutions, and roster updates as the season progressed. The problem is, those were promised for the PC version, and it was the Nintendo 64 version which was essentially a heavily stripped down port of the PC game, which takes away anything unique about NBA Live 99, and essentially delivers yet another underwhelming basketball sim on Nintendo 64 that already felt dated on its release. The biggest problem with NBA Live 99 on N64 is just how bad the game's engine is optimised for the system. The game crawls along at such a slow frame rate that it makes the game verge on being unplayable. When I think of the NBA, I think of high-octane, fast-paced action with end-to-end games. What NBA Live 99 delivers is a stop-start court experience which crawls along like an amateur basketball match. This is compounded by the horrific controls. Now, I've played many bad sports games over the years on many different platforms, but the input delay in this game is some of the worst that I've ever seen. Simple control inputs needed like passing and shooting have such long delays, and in some cases the button presses are not even recorded. There were instances where I was pressing pass buttons sometimes 3 times and my player still wouldn't pass the ball. Shooting too is bad because the delays, when combined with the slowdown which happens regularly around the hoop as players pile into it, makes it near impossible to time your shots. It seems EA focus more on maintaining the game's graphics, which to be fair are quite good. However, as you can see, there's a thick border which looks ugly around the screen. And if you asked any gamer if they'd rather have a playable frame rate over the looks, I think the answer would be obvious. The game does however feature all of the usual teams, players, stats and modes such as exhibition and seasons for you to all sink your teeth into. Now, there is an arcade mode built into the game, but anyone hoping for some NBA Jam style madness is going to be sorely disappointed. This mode simply turns off a lot of the rules and adds in some hilariously bad sound effects and visuals. It makes little sense to play this mode as it's just as terrible as the main simulation based normal game. A simple fix would have been to reduce the player count to maybe 2v2, which would have allowed the game to run much faster and created a more intense scoring system. Instead, the arcade mode is just like another layer of crap to wade through, and if it wasn't for the 3-point shootout mode in the game, there would be literally nothing here worth playing. Other small plus points though are the game's commentary, sound effects and music, which are all very high quality, but you'd kind of expect that from EA over the years, but nothing can make up for the fact that how bad the gameplay is with this one. If you ever wanted to know how dodgy IGN are, then read their review of NBA Live 99 on N64 online. The fact that they gave this game 8 out of 10 is absolutely mind-boggling. It wasn't good in its release, and there were far superior basketball games already on N64. If you want to laugh out loud, then just read the summary section of that review, which says NBA Live 99 leaves NBA courtside in the dust with faster gameplay and more exciting dunks. So ripping IGN aside, the bar was incredibly low in my opinion when, no surprises, EA announced that NBA Live 2000 would be making its way to N64. As expected, even back then EA were promising updated teams, rosters, more fluid gameplay, new game modes, skill, dunks, more polished presentation, better animations, the same old stuff that we hear year in year out about any sports game. This year Kevin Garnett did most of the player motion capture for the game, but looking at the gameplay footage you'd be hard pressed to tell. Only the most eagle-eyed gamer would see much of a difference between NBA Live 99 and 2000's player animations, and the only plus point is that the frame rate is much more stable this time around, or in my opinion though, it is still too low for a sports game. Not mentioning the fact that Michael Jordan is in the game would be, well, a criminal oversight. Anyone growing up as a kid with basketball games back in the day would always miss having him named in the games, and so being able to 1v1 Michael Jordan to unlock him as a free agent in the game is one of the cooler aspects of NBA Live 2000. It's not just MJ you can 1v1 though, because the new game mode makes sense, and I would have expected the mode to have run much faster given the limited pressure on the system's engine by literally having one player go up against another. Sadly though, it plays much the same as the normal 5v5 exhibition matchups, and so it seems everywhere you look in the game, you're running into brick walls for simple issues that should have been fixed before it was released. One area which EA promised vast improvements were the player's artificial intelligence, and yes, I could see some minor improvements over NBA Live 99, but it was still far behind what you had seen from something like NBA Courtside. In 5v5 games, it seems that maybe only 2 or 3 of the players on each team have intelligence at any given moment, which leaves too many players on the court standing around unresponsive, just looking at what's going on around them. Things like simple rebounds and chasing down loose balls seems a near impossible task for the computer, and expecting them to find pockets to move into without you just doing it yourself is pretty much a no-go. It also surprises me that EA didn't incorporate expansion pack support into this game either, to either boost the frame rate or push those visuals even further, which is what I'd probably have expected them to do because, based on their previous history, they're all about trying to get those visuals as far as possible, even if it sacrifices the gameplay. The arcade mode and 3-point shootout modes do make a comeback, and both play as they did in NBA Live 99, but this time the shooting in the 3-point mode seems way off, and even high-ranked players struggle to land every basket. The arcade mode still plays poorly, but at least this time they removed the Looney Tunes sounding sound effects and changed them for something a little less embarrassing. In NBA Live 2000 though, and like the first game, it's the sound and music which are the standout aspects of the game. The commentary has even more lines of dialogue which makes the matchups feel more television-like. The crowd noises have also been improved, but at times they sound like they're better suited to a wrestling game than an NBA match. The music too is very clear and there's a nice range as you navigate through the menus here. Sadly, the N64 version doesn't use Dolby Digital like its PC and PlayStation counterparts. Martin Kitts of N64 magazine gave the game a 65% score and suggested that whilst Michael Jordan fans will lap this game up, everyone else is likely to feel quite disappointed. So why didn't the N64 continue to get the NBA Live series of games after this release? Well, there's never been any official word, but I expect that the games would have sold poorly, and creating ports for the Nintendo 64 were difficult when the game could be ported easily from PC to PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 after this release much more easily. So for today's topic of conversation down below, and seeing as I've now finished reviewing all basketball games on the console, let's decide once and for all what the system's best baller game is. I'll start off by saying that I think NBA Courtside for simulation aspects and NBA Showtime for arcade action. As always though, thanks for watching, and until next time.